right. What's up, everybody? Sorry, I had to do the delay to get our friends on Instagram caught up. It's weird how you have to go live on Instagram these days. You have to
Hey Jeff,
kind of
I
wait.
can't see anything.
I can't see anything either, Jeff. I just see my horrific loud.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Now
I
we're good.
clicked and it didn't unclick. And
all good.
wait, can you
Hey,
hear
we're here.
Me?
We did it.
Are we here?
Yeah.
Are we all here?
No, we're good. We're good.
Are we good? Are we good? I am trying to. So Bob and Sal are taking a sabbatical, so we're going to take a pause on the theme song. You can sing it if you want, Zach, but we're we're gonna come back with a theme to Gilligan's Island that doesn't mention Bob or Sal. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, welcome the John on Instagram. Welcome. We got Instagram people. We got everybody.
Hey, Jerry. Good seeing you, man. I hope you're feeling okay, my brother.
Jerry. Wait, let's see. There's a theme song. Yeah, it's gone. Everyone's gone. We got to make a new one. See if Zach wants to. So, you mentioned the Iron Claw last week and how much you loved it, and I finally watched it, Zach. And it is a gut-wrenching, amazing movie. I will say that the incredible thing about the Iron Claw is it is so deep, so upsetting, and they actually cut real stuff out of these people's lives because it was even more upsetting.
Yeah, there's another brother.
There was even more tragedy.
Yeah, and there was another brother that I think there was.
There was another brother that killed himself. It was
wow.
It's
and like I was actually a wrestling fan in the late 80s, and obviously the Von Erichs were a little bit before my time, but I remember when the Texas Tornado came about, and I remember watching when he showed up, and everyone, the audience was freaking out, and the announcers were freaking out, and it's like the Von Erichs, and I'm like, I wonder what this is about. And that guy wasn't very good from what I remember. I remember him being hyped up. And then you watch the movie, you're like, dude, he only had he lost a foot, and they made him do this stuff. That movie is so amazing. Regardless of wrestling, regardless, Zac Efron tier actor after this movie. But
Zac Efron was amazing in this movie. Everyone was really great in this movie, and everyone should definitely watch The Iron Claw. I feel like it kind of came in, had some buzz, and then
And this is still in the theaters, or it's
No, I think you have to.
You can pay to see it now. I don't think it's free on any streaming services currently. I know it's out to watch. But the cool thing about it, it's not just wrestling, right? It's not even really just about family. And the part that I thought was so exciting, I'm not sure we're trying to talk about this movie now, but I just like how they broke down toxic masculinity in such a brilliantly crafted way. I thought that movie, how it tore down what being a man is, being masculine, being a father, all that stuff was really stressed upon and really dissected. I'm such a fan of it. Beautiful movie.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Definitely check it out. And I continue my run through Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Unfortunately, I am through the 4 seasons on Netflix, so I have to go back to Peacock with the commercials. But I continue to be addicted to this show. The rewatch is unbelievable. I'm going to eventually get to the part where I had stopped watching the show. I think I'm getting close to that moment when it was a period and then it got canceled and then it came back. And so there's definitely half of this series that I never saw, but oh my God, it just continues to be hilarious. The it seems like every one of the female actresses got pregnant during the show and they had to write around it. but it's funny how they do it. So anyway, that's part of my journey.
Awesome.
Is that so? All right. So what do we got here? We got
Are you ranking these episodes, or do you have one episode in your rewatch now that you're like, this is the best episode?
You know, I love them all. You know, it's like any show. The shtick, because it's the same shtick, eventually isn't as funny as it was. And then sometimes they just come at you and it's just hilarious again, type thing. Like I said, everyone goes, I stopped watching when they went to Florida. And there is like a 4 or 5 episode lull but then it picks right back up. And it was like the vibe of the show was off for a minute. And then, but I don't know, it's just I just keep laughing. They just they have like the things like with Community where it had the paintball every year. This one they have the Halloween heist. There's like a contest in the Brooklyn in the 9-9 where they Rosner's on Instagram. Have we reviewed Happy Days? Good show. It is a good show. The oh, that reminds me. Oh, so anyway, so yeah, so anyway, I'm loving that. Sari, hello. Ron Lippett's on Instagram now. What's going on? Sari, wish Jeff a happy birthday. I know I texted him, but you can say it since you're there. Hey, all right. So this is fun. All right. So we have some awesome shows for you. Last week, though, this is episode 145. So we have over 140 episodes, 140 hours of binge watching suggestions for you. So it's a lot of great stuff on our YouTube channel. So definitely check out our YouTube channel. Last week, we talked about American Fiction, the TV show All Rise, Chuck, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. Actually, that was 2 weeks ago. And this week, today, we're going to talk about.
That was last week.
Oh wait. This was last week. I'm confused. You know what? I sometimes the image. Sometimes
it was 2 weeks ago.
So yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. So definitely check that out.
Yep.
Last week we talked about Damsel, Irish Wish, Spaceman, and Ricky Stenicki.
Interesting.
Ron, you got to watch Ricky Stenicki.
I think I do. I can already tell that. I might
Ricky
like that.
Stenicki. John Cena is comedy gold. Comedy gold. But all right, but this week we're going to talk about Masters of Air, The Gentleman, and the show that's everyone's a buzzing, Quiet on the Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV, which unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you know something about that one. So let's kick things off with Masters of the Air. Ron. Is Ron frozen? I think Ron froze. All right. That's a live show.
I think it's a bit. I don't think he's frozen.
I don't know. Yeah, he looks frozen. He looks totally frozen.
Yeah, I guess it is. I thought it was a bit for a second.
Yeah, I thought maybe he was just freezing. All right. You know what? Well, since he's frozen and unavailable at the moment, we're going to start with The Gentleman.
Oh, nice.
And we'll knock it over to Zach.
All right, here we go. Okay, The Gentleman. Guy Ritchie. This is his first time making a series. I absolutely love Guy Ritchie stuff. If anybody knows Guy Ritchie, the things that stand out in most Guy Ritchie things are obviously the flashy colors. He has very memorable characters. He has probably the most punchy dialogue that is just dripping with British words that I could not ever understand. And just amazing like set pieces. Like you watch Snatch and you remember all the weird like scenes in Snatch and Brick and Brad Pitt and everything. Lock, Stock, and Barrel. You have all those amazing characters. But a couple of years ago, he actually made a movie called The Gentleman, which had Matthew McConaughey in it, Colin Farrell, and Hugh Grant, and it was pretty good. It was not his best movie out there, but it was a good movie. A couple days ago, they put out this thing, The Gentleman by Guy Ritchie. And I'm like, well, what's this about? What's going on here? I know this, but it's a different cast, but it is Guy Ritchie. Now, Guy Ritchie wrote all 8 episodes of this with one of his friends. He only directed 2 of the 8 episodes, which is pretty interesting. Like he directed the first episode, just obviously as like how pilots go now, just to get the sense and the flavor and how the aesthetics go. and then he kind of passed it off to a couple other guys. One guy was the director of American Ultra, but the other two guys are just very in depth with like British, the British indie scene is those guys. Now this movie stars Theo James, who, if you unfortunately watched in the Divergent movies, he's the main guy in Divergent, but he's amazing in this, so don't hold that against him. You have Cara Scodelario, who's from one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. You have Daniel Ings, who is just great. Vinnie Jones is in it, who is one of the best juggernauts if you watch superhero movies. Great cast in this, and even Giancarlo Esposito is in this, and he is a meth dealer, which is pretty interesting. Now, the movie or the show revolves mostly around Theo, and his father just passes, and his father is an aristocrat. He is the Duke of this area, and the main guy has an older brother who's, spends a lot of money, does a lot of drugs, not really a great person. And in the will, the older brother gets passed over, and then Theo gets the job. So Theo, now the main character, is the Duke of this area, and it turns out that like this thing isn't really a money-making thing. It's like the same thing as any of the royals. Like, how do they really make money? Where does their money go? Like, he has this huge staff, he has a huge mansion. Yeah, Jerry, great. I like Jerry. Now, this show is amazing. So he has this whole staff. He's realizing that the thing is just sieving money. He needs a lot of money, and his brother just fell into like this huge debt where he needs like $8 million by the end of the week, or else he's going to have a part of his body removed, which he says is lethal. I don't think it's lethal, but he says it is. So that's good enough. Well, it turns out as Theo's going through all the stuff that the father owned and the estate and all this stuff that was left to him in the will, it turns out that a part of his land actually has a big marijuana factory on it, and they make so much marijuana. And what they did was they made a deal with the dad that if they just use the land, they would give the dad $5 million a year, no big deal, as long as they can use the land. Well, he gets more involved with his business because he doesn't want it there initially, but then he starts throughout the season seeing how this is some pretty good money. He needs $8 million quickly to save his brother, but it's like, hey, I can probably make some money. I'm pretty good at this. The concept is pretty good. I've never really seen it before. I like how Guy Ritchie gives you seedy British. This is the first time that he gives you elite British, and it's interesting how you are just thrown into this. I don't understand any of these things. I don't know what a duke really is. I know Christopher Guest is one, but I don't know what they do or what they are. So it's kind of cool to see all that. But the thing that I love about this is that it is so filthy British. Like, they use words and they use slang, and their dialogue is so fast that I literally have to read the captions to understand what they're saying. And you don't need to know what most of it is. And I think what Guy Ritchie does so well is he never dumbs down what he's trying to do for an audience. A lot of people will, dumb it down to make sure that every single person watching can understand what they're saying. He just blasts you with so many slang words and so many like things that you might not understand. But if you need to know it, he'll start writing stuff on the screen for you, just so you can pay a little more attention, just to slow it down a little bit. So a lot of times, like you hear dialogue in movies and you're like, nobody speaks like this. This is not how people talk. And that takes me and some people out of it. But the way Guy Ritchie does it, you're like, no, this is how these people speak. They've been doing this their whole life. That makes sense to me. And every single episode, it builds a bigger and better weaving blanket of story. I totally speak like this, you butter slapper. What? Am I supposed to read that?
I was just making stuff up like Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah. That is very, yeah. If I had a cool Cockney accent, that would have sounded way better, and I would have been intrigued.
I told the baby that is about a slapper.
It's more like Chet Hanks doing Jamaican, but that's fine. The thing is, like every one of these throwaway characters in the beginning, in episode 1, at some point they get so much more. Like the plot opens up and you get so much more characterization out of them, and every person from like the mom to the brother's wife who you don't really see, everyone gets just a bigger, wider scope. And I really like the way that this thing just works together, and it is a really witty, sharp thing. I can guarantee you, if you watch episode 1 and you like it even a little bit, you will love the rest of the show and you will binge it almost immediately. This thing is top notch if you're into Guy Ritchie stuff. I miss that guy.
Hey, I want to say, hey, Lee joined the show. Ian, Mark, on H. Foster. Roz is maybe hanging on still on the Instagram. So we're rocking. So I think Guy Ritchie, is he still married to Madonna? Or they're not together anymore.
Nah.
That was, I think Snatch was the first. Wasn't there the movie? What was that one with Brad Pitt?
Yeah, that was Snatch.
Yeah, it was Snatch. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was also a TV show. So this isn't the first thing he turned into a TV show. You said he made a movie, The Gentleman, and then
Snatch,
a TV series.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of involvement with the TV show. Snatch was like the franchise was bought and then they kind of turned it into something. This was the first thing that
All the money's in based on characters by, man. If you can get some based on character money, that's what the Karate Kid guys with Cobra Kai. That's all based on characters by money. So that's all good. Oh, he did Aladdin. I forgot he did Aladdin. Guy Ritchie.
Yeah,
never saw that. That was with Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Yeah, his King Arthur was amazing. Like, I'm not really a big King Arthur kind of guy, but the way Guy Ritchie does it, I love it. I like snapshots. I like quick montages of fast moving things. I like usually looking at Charlie Hunnam without a shirt on. I'll take most things that Guy Ritchie does, and this show is good. Yeah.
Ian from Instagram is calling out Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. That was a great one too.
That is one of the best movies ever made, especially out of Britain.
Especially out of Britain.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of great British movies, especially like that. I think that there's really good action movies. Lock, Stock is spectacular.
Spectacular.
Willy Wonka was made in Britain. Just throwing that out there.
Yes, but the new Wonka is horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. It is.
It's like when you're making a movie like the new Wonka movie, it's like the first song's got to be good. It has to be good. The first song in Wonka, the remake Wonka, it just sucks. It's not even a good song.
It's cute how he keeps losing money.
Yeah, but the song's not great. Like Cats. Cats is an example of something that's supposedly renowned. Everyone's seen Cats, but only the first song is good. Angelical Cats, or whatever it is, right? And then you're like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then it's like 50 minutes to Mr. Mistopheles or something, and another 2 hours to Memories. It's the worst. Anyway, my point is Wonka was the worst. It wasn't good.
Hanging on his Cats material for a while.
Cats is like punishment as far as I'm concerned. And
we're not even talking about the movie. No, it's like when they said we're making a movie, Cats. It's like, how are you making a movie about the worst play ever? And actually, they topped
Cats, the movie was so bad that it was actually good. Like it's enjoyably bad.
No,
like we laughed for 2 hours at this movie.
I guess if you can look at it in that way.
My kids and I. Yeah.
They should have used the Primus covers of the Wonka songs.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry that we digressed from British movies to Cats.
No, it's important. It's important. Let's see. Okay. All right. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Masters of no. Let me do it
Masters of the Air.
Yeah. I know. Let's talk about Masters of the Air.
Hey Jeff, before I get into Masters of the Air, can I just make a quick comment about Curb Your Enthusiasm that you guys did 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Because I on Instagram, which Crossing the Streams is now featured on, congratulations. I will just say that I follow a lot of behind the scenes classic shows and movie conversations, and I saw one just recently. And Zach, you may have seen this with Jason Alexander, and he was talking about season 1, episode 3 of Seinfeld, which was The Apartment. So they were hunting for an apartment, and it has the classic scene in it where Jason Alexander's character George, they're at the Chinese restaurant. He's waiting for his name to get called, and he gets called Cartwright. No one answers, and it turns out he misses this big call. And Jerry's like, "Who's Cartwright?" And George famously says, "I guess I'm Cartwright." And it's a really, really outrageously hilarious scene. And apparently, the way Jason Alexander explains it, that it got no laughs in testing in front of the NBC studios. And Warren Littlefield said we're not making this episode. This is a really stupid episode about nothing. And the way Jason Alexander tells it, Warren Littlefield was so incensed by the writing that he walked out, planning to cancel the whole show. And the only reason I bring this up is because Larry David apparently said to the team, well, he didn't say we couldn't keep doing this. And so Larry David basically threw in all his chips and said, let's just keep doing it. And I don't care what Warren Littlefield says. And they did the rest of that show. And it turned out to be one of the best episodes in Seinfeld, especially of the first season, and led to the show continuing on. So I just wanted to point out that there's a great documentary out there somewhere with Jason Alexander talking about how Larry David actually saved the show on that episode with Warren Littlefield walking out of the show. Larry David saying, let's just keep doing what we're doing. We're doing the right thing. So I thought that was an interesting little side note that I just saw that recently. So I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. So great. So it just figures that, Larry David would continue on with Curb. So anyway, all right, let's shift gears, talk about Masters of the Air.
Wait, some nobodies joined on Instagram. Candy Clark joined on Instagram. American Graffiti, Candy Clark. You can hear her on my podcast. All right, let's talk about Masters of the Air.
So for those of you who don't know, Masters of the Air is really, this is not official, but this is really in effect the third of 3 parts of these World War II limited series dramas. First one, of course, being the classic and highly regarded Band of Brothers, which was produced by HBO, followed up by The Pacific, which was also produced by HBO. And Tom Hanks, his production company Playtone, had worked with Steven Spielberg on the concept of producing another third part of the trilogy, this time instead of featuring the U.S. Army paratroopers, 101st Division, or the Pacific, which featured the 1st Marine Corps and their exploits in the Pacific. This one would feature the precursor to the United States Air Force. Does anybody know what the precursor to the Air Force was called?
Just Force. It was Just Force, and then they decided to call it Air later.
Yeah, they called it Air. Yeah. Now it turns out that the Air Force was part of the Army, so it was the United States Army Air Force, USAAF. So that wasn't until after World War II that it actually became its own branch of military service. A little fun side note. Hanks and his team went to work on creating the production around this, and HBO agreed to principal photography, but then ended up selling the whole thing to Apple. And Apple went on to production in 2021 and produced this. It took a long time, but it is a terrifically built 9-part miniseries talking about what it was like to be a B-17 bomber, part of a bombing crew, particularly in 1943 and 1944. And let me just say this. When we think about heroic exploits in World War II, and God knows I've watched my incredible amount of documentaries. My kids think I'm absolutely nuts. I've watched every documentary there is in World War II. Very few tales of heroism are shown about the crews that manned these B-17s that flew unaccompanied in 1943 and 1944, when the daylight bombing campaigns began from England to occupied France and Germany, and how absolutely naked and at risk these planes were.
Oh no!
Oh no, we lost it. We lost her
during the naked airplane part.
I know. And now all I can picture is naked airplanes, and then he just disappeared.
Have you seen Band of Brothers?
I never saw Band of Brothers, but it's like on my list of things now that I have to watch, because it's like one of those classic things that there's always those things, those classic things that you didn't see, but you're like, why didn't you see it? You know what I mean? It's like,
Band of Brothers is spectacular. It said like Tom Cruise, when he was doing Saving Private Ryan, that he did that walk down where they hit on Omaha Beach or whatever one it was, and he like walked all the way down, like, and then there's like a memorial at the end, and he said that his like body was just so shook that he needed to keep telling more stories about this day and the people that sacrificed so much. So it was like walking on the set of that that made him realize that he needed to do Band of Brothers, which is really cool. Like a weird fact, I love Band of Brothers. I think it's one of the most amazing. I'm not really a big army movie or that kind of like war. I'm not a big fan of war stuff. Band of Brothers really caught me off guard. And did you know that by like it was like the third day of shooting Band of Brothers, they'd already gone through more ammo than in Save a Private Ryan.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
That is
Hey,
amazing.
I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm having
No, it's
internet
fine.
trouble.
Ron, you were talking about naked airplanes.
Yeah, naked airplanes. So something really big happened in 1943, and that was the United States agreed with Britain that U.S. would handle daytime bombing while Britain stuck to its nighttime bombing. And while on the surface you'd think, well, daytimes they're going to get their ass shot off, but actually the mortality rate of British crews at night was actually 40% flying their different kinds of bombing planes, which were slower, less likely to survive being shot up the way American planes were. The B-17 is really a remarkable piece of engineering. That thing can get shot to hell and still fly back. It's just incredible how these planes manage. In fact, I would just say that the show does a really great job. I would say the plane itself is one of the major characters of the show. The character of these planes, about how just incredibly well made they are, and that was a big part of I think the excitement of this show. But I just would say this: the decision to do daylight bombing in 1943 really proved the heroism of these crews that actually volunteered to be part of this, because all of them were going to end up getting shot. The casualty rate was 50%. Half these planes had to ditch. Everyone's got stories of friends who were either shot out of the sky or ended up being captured. I mean, it just was a suicide mission, every single one of these. And it wasn't until 1944, finally in the second half, with the advent of, can anybody tell me? Anybody know? The P-51 Mustang. The P-51 Mustang was a fighter plane that finally was produced, by the way, partly here in Detroit at Willow Run. But they were able to escort these bombers finally from England all the way to Germany and all the way back, fighter planes. And they were faster, sleeker, better equipped, and they just ran roughshod on all the German defenses. So once these planes came into existence, then the bombing campaign really was at its most effective. So, this show, 9 parts, as I said, each one 50 minutes, roughly 50 minutes to an hour. Is it as good as Band of Brothers? Is the character development as good? No, it's not. Nothing in my mind so far does as good a job as Band of Brothers of telling the story of heroism and sharing in the pain that these people went through, both in terms of the work they did in action, but also the effect of them as old men and the stories they would tell about what it was like living with this growing up. And this is not quite the same caliber of character development. That being said, Masters of the Air does an incredible job of telling what, in my personal opinion, is a widely untold story of the war, which was the heroism of people that mostly never got recognized because they were killed and they were shot out of the sky, most of the time coming back from doing miraculous things. And that is a big part of, I think, our success in World War II. And I think led to a lot of the way we designed the modern Air Force, and even the way we go about supporting, our various militaries collectively together today. So it's an amazing thing. The production value is terrific. Again, Playtone does an incredible job with the visual and the audio, and I think the CGI for this, which is extensive. There's only a handful of B-17s that fly today, and my understanding is they only had access to 2 for the production of this. But you wouldn't know it because of the technology. The CGI is terrific, and it feels like you're up there with, in some of these bomb runs, you guys, there were 300 plus B-17s that were. Can you imagine being on the ground in France or Germany and seeing 300 of these guys appear in the sky above you? It's just it's incredible. So listen, I tend to focus more on what happens on the ground, but this was an incredible story, and I highly recommend it. if for no other reason than to understand the impact of what would become ultimately the United States Air Force in World War II. So check it out. Again, Apple TV Plus. I don't know if any of you have made the decision to jump to Apple TV Plus, but if you haven't, this is another foundational series that I think could push you to making that, pulling the trigger to Apple TV.
Apple TV has a tremendous amount of amazing content.
It's getting there. It's getting there. I mean, it's, I don't know what's going to ever top Ted Lasso, but they're looking for it,
Shrinking's great. I just discovered
Yeah.
and watched, I'll talk about it in the next week or so, Trying, a show called
Yeah.
Trying.
That's Silo.
yeah.
Silo is great.
Silo was terrific. And then
The
what was
Blackbird
miniseries?
The Blackbird
What was the movie that
miniseries.
won the Academy Award about the deaf family?
Coda.
Because Coda, that was produced for Apple TV Plus as well.
Yep, that was a
yeah. So you're right. It's got a lot of great titles. So it's getting there. It's funny. I was talking to my kids, 22, 19, and 16, about which of the three, which network I should say is their favorite, and it would surprise you. I would have thought just immediately they would say Netflix, and 2 of the 3 right off the bat said no, it's Amazon Prime. And I'm like, really, Amazon Prime? And they were like,
they're wrong about that.
I think so too. I think so too. So mine's still Netflix, but I got to tell you, I think Apple TV Plus is doing a great job, and I'd be very sad if I lost them as one of my go-tos.
Well, all right. Let's talk about not Apple TV Plus. Let's talk about the show that everyone's talking about. If you're on TikTok or Instagram with the reels, and it's really hard to avoid. Quiet on Set: The Dark Side of Kids TV. So, are you guys familiar with this? I mean, all right. So, this is. I will preface this by saying, this is the most disturbing thing you will ever watch, but you need to watch it. Like everyone needs to watch it. If you were ever a kid and watching TV and like dreamed of that life, or you have kids that maybe want to go into show business, when they talk about, never really knowing who that other person is, this is a very unfortunate tale of just horrible, horrible things that happened to Nickelodeon in the 90s. Now, this is on Max. There's 4 episodes. So they're about 45 minutes each. There's actually a 5th episode coming. They just announced a bonus episode coming, I think, end of the first week of April. So there's been talk for a long time that this guy, Dan Schneider, who was on Head of the Class, he was one of the cast members of Head of the Class, and then he became this golden boy at Nickelodeon, creating originally this show called All That. I got to admit, the first couple episodes, my kids weren't of the age that I was watching those shows, so I never saw these shows. So I just didn't have that context, but I only mentioned that because I still found it extremely fascinating because I knew what came next. I was more like the iCarly years, which I know Zack hates, and I'll let him go off in a minute. But it's what your kids were watching and when they started and all that kind of stuff. So this story is kind of like 2 paths. One is about this guy, Dan Schneider, who created all these shows. So, part of it's about how if you're ultimately hugely successful, you can pretty much do anything you want until you can't anymore, right? Until the story ends. I mean, just the whole way I get his story was more toxic, hugely toxic environment, horrible to women, very strangely odd with women. It was just a horrible, horrible environment that he created. Oh, and he kind of played it off like he was like, the fun guy and stuff like that. But people were so afraid of him. And then there's the whole, oops, we're Nickelodeon, but we keep hiring pedophiles. And it's like so disturbing. They talk about a couple, and then they really kind of focus on this one guy, Brian Peck. And Brian Peck, the big reveal in episode 3, and I'm going to say it just because it's all over the internet anyway, but you ends episode 2 with like realizing that there's this huge pedophile that was arrested, and one of the actors on one of the shows is the victim. And so it starts then in episode 3 where you kind of learn, and it goes real deep into the fact that that's Drake Bell. If you ever watched Drake and Josh, he was also on the Amanda Show. So, real popular Nickelodeon person. And this guy did unspeakable things to him. And it's the third episode is all him doing an interview where this is the first time outside of therapy that he's actually told this story. Okay, that of being just everything, just raped by this guy, right? And so yeah, Ian brings up on Instagram that this guy gets fired and then hired later by Disney when he's out. Okay, so it's like a convicted, registered sex offender in jail and all that kind of stuff.
That's
so
crazy.
Part of the also crazy thing is, and this just happened with the guy from, who was the guy from the 90s show that just went to jail, and people wrote letters, trying like Mia Kunis and Ashton Kutcher wrote letters in his defense, remember, like to the judge to try and get his sentence reduced. So when this guy, Brian Peck, who is the pedophile who abused Drake Bell, there was the whole trial, right? There was like 41 actors that had worked with this Brian Peck guy that wrote letters, and people that are famous now. James Marsden is getting called out, and there's other people as well that, and now keep in mind, when they write these letters, that means Brian Peck has been convicted of being a pedophile, right? And they're still writing the letter going, oh, and some of them were actually blaming Drake Bell. Oh, Brian Peck, the 40-year-old man must have, I'm adding words, must have been tempted been tempted, right? So the 15-year-old was tempting the 40-year-old, and the 40-year-old couldn't resist. So it's okay for him to rape. This is just insane lines of thinking, right? And so it's just, think how horrible that is. And now part of the blowback from this show is on these people that wrote these letters and that have not come out and have not apologized and have not made statements. One actress, I think, said, I was clearly given bad information. I recant, or like, she can't literally, but like, she says, I never would have done that. So it's just, think about that. So the saddest thing about the Drake Bell incident is his father pinned this guy immediately. And because Drake Bell's parents were in a divorce situation, and this guy, Brian Peck, it talks a lot about how and they did this with other people. Amanda Bynes, they did this too. Dan Schneider did it, where they get into these people's lives and then separate them from their family so they can control them and can control their careers and stuff like that. Real scary mental manipulative stuff going on here. And they just talked about how this Brian Peck guy drove a wedge between Drake and his father. So then he went back to live with his mother, who took over. And the father is like, you cannot let him near this guy. There's something wrong with this guy. And of course, they let him go. The mom just, whatever. They didn't make the mom look so great, but the dad was definitely a hero. And it wasn't like the dad was just saying, I knew. Everyone was saying he knew. and it was, it just, you can imagine the torment of this father to then find out that it happened to his son, who he knew he needed to protect and couldn't protect. It's just so horrible, so horrible. And, there's a lot of interesting things. There's people like Jeanette McCurdy, she's the blonde actress who was on iCarly. She was not interviewed for this, but she did write a book. And she talks about in the book, she doesn't name Dan Schneider by name, but it's Dan Schneider. And because how many shows was she on? You know what I mean? But she passed. She did not take the $300,000. Now, this is 20 years ago, $300,000 bribe payoff to never talk about Nickelodeon and her experiences and Dan Schneider or anything like that again. That's why you see a lot of these other big stars,
That's terrible.
possibly Ariana Grande, Miranda Cosgrove, maybe Josh Peck. They didn't say for sure, but these people aren't speaking, right? And they may have taken the money, right? We'll take them. They took the money, but Jeanette McCurdy, at 18 or whatever age she was, knew enough not to play the bullshit game. So you got to give her huge credit for that, for doing that. But we're talking about when you think about like Amanda Bynes, right? And you can think back to like the Britney Spears meltdown. Amanda Bynes had a meltdown like that too. And I watch Amanda Bynes now on TikTok. She's very mellow, kind of very, speaks very slowly, very sweet, very nice, trying to get her manicurist license. It's, but it's like when you look at the footage that they show of Amanda Bynes when she was discovered, this is the most energetic, hilarious, full of life person. I mean, it's unbelievable. This person should be like Jennifer Lawrence is now, like, just in that category. And at some point she was on that trajectory and then, just had these meltdowns. But you start to realize, Drake Bell, same thing, DUIs or whatever it was, loses all his money, but you start to realize like it's because they were mentally abused for so many years. We don't see that, right? We never saw like the behind the scenes of things happening to Britney Spears or anything like that. We just, as the public, react because we feel that's our right to the horrible things that are happening. But it was just like so devastating to see like what the promise and all that stuff. Then you got some of these other young stars that are coming out and they're going, well, it didn't happen to us. Yes, yes. And sometimes in life, some bad things happen to certain people and circumstances and not to others. But it doesn't discount the bad things that were rampant. And they weren't even interviewing just the kids. They were the women writers that were treated like horribly, like
Mm.
told they had to work for free basically half the time, humiliated, forced to quit. I mean, so it wasn't just the young people. It was, there was also people who were older at the time that were just recognizing how toxic and horrible this was and everything like that. It's like, it's devastating. I will say in terms of the 4 episodes, they don't do that thing where when they come back, they re-show the 5 minutes that they just showed. They don't do that. I feel it's like 4 hours of content, you know what I mean? And it's really well done and it's very disturbing and it's something everyone really should watch because it's like, it's really scary to think. I mean, if you were to say, oh, where would be the 2 safest places for kids, Disney and Nickelodeon. And that's probably the opposite of the truth. And so it's just, I mean, come on, 3 pedophiles. I mean, one's too many, but 3, I mean, it's like, what kind of, and here's the funny thing. So Dan Schneider comes out, like the first 2 episodes drop. Of course, he comes out. One of the young actors, who's not young anymore, but was young at the time, interviews him. It's a bullshit interview, like just an apology, quote unquote apology interview or whatever, just total bullshit. And so his quote is, look, you can say, the other thing they talk about is how sexual this stuff was. Like and the older people's points were it's innuendo, but who's the innuendo for? This is a kid's show. I mean, literally Ariana Grande with a potato doing this, trying to get the juice out. Like, oh, give me the juice. I mean, it's like when you watch it, it's so disturbing. And that's just one example, but it's like, oh yeah, hey. But this is what they say. Look, this went through many processes. Many people saw this. This was looked at on many levels. It's not like Dan Schneider. It's not like Dan Schneider just said, here it is, and it ended up on TV. So the whole system was broken. They can talk about what an asshole and all this, but it's just the whole system seemed to be broken. Anyway, you guys got to watch it. You get riled up, and then when you start seeing the videos, there's a little context to them, and there's even more videos covering even more stories that aren't even in this show.
Oof.
But oh God, it's so disturbing.
Yeah. Jeff, I think if nothing else, we've seen the lengths to which networks will go to protect a brand and to protect their stars, even at the physical and mental expense of the people that are involved in the production or behind the scenes. And that has been proven over and over and over again.
Yeah, they would
And
interview the parents and like, well, we were afraid to say anything. What if that was the end of the career?
yep, totally.
Well, you ended the career because you destroyed their life.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
it took the Me Too movement to really begin that process of healing. But even now, it's still true today.
there was one mom that was on there. I don't know why she agreed to do the interview. Okay. All right. Because she basically says it was a different pedophile. And they're like, who had created a relationship with her daughter that ended with him sending a picture of him masturbating, saying, "This is, look, I'm thinking about you." She found this image and didn't call the police. She didn't do
Unbelievable.
anything. You know what I mean? And it's like
Ugh.
you can't tell that story and think that you're the good person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, who knows what you could have stopped or whatever. And it's not like her daughter was on some trajectory. She was sitting in one of the chairs in one of the scenes. I mean, it wasn't even like, so it's like to have not done that. And like, I don't even understand why she would go on camera and tell this story, because I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
Mm,
You're like, you're admitting
awful.
this? You're admitting
Yeah.
this on TV? It's like, so anywho, everyone check this out. Quiet on the Sets, 4 episodes. You'll just keep watching it because you'll watch 2 episodes and then watch the other 2 episodes. That's the best way to watch it. It's a good way to digest it all. But yeah, I would definitely check that out. So
It also sucks like how all that came out. Like no one really talked about Dan Schneider at first. Like at first you hear, oh, Amanda Bynes is going crazy and she's acting up and now she's in juvie, and then you hear like, oh, Drake Bell's a turd and he's child endangering and he's doing bad like he did such bad stuff that he got kicked out of this country and went to Mexico and changed his last name and like does like rap in Spanish now. And you're like, oh, these kids were such bad kids. And it all turns out that they were all being manipulated when they were literally children and just taken advantage of. And it sucks. It does.
yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of feel bad that
Yeah.
made comments or did anything like that. And but so the important thing is like when you're watching, like, we're doing it right now, not us, but like the world's doing it with Kate Middleton right now, right? All the
Yeah.
speculation. Then it's like, oh, I have cancer. I'm fighting cancer. But then it's like, that was even AI. Look, if you look at the eye, it goes like this. You know what I mean? It's like they won't let it go. And it's like enough. You know what I mean? Because something's gonna come out horrible, right? I mean, like probably, right? There's some story, right? And then it's gonna be like, you already have everyone going, oh, we feel like shit for buying into the conspiracy theories and then learning it's cancer. You know what I mean? So, but
yeah, that situation, I know this is it's a digression from crossing the streams, but that situation is really a metaphor for what is wrong with society. The whole thing about how they were forced into revealing that. It's a horrendous situation.
Well, the monarchy better than any of us, because I know you kind of watch all that stuff.
I do watch
but
that
they, like when they have a baby, she had to walk out 10 seconds later and go, I just had a baby. Look at me.
Yeah,
I'm amazing. So it's like, you can't just disappear. You can't be Kate Middleton and disappear for 2 months.
True.
I get it, but they've kind of set the thing where that is a red flag, right?
They definitely
but they also do crazy stuff to like cover up their lies. Like that photo that they put out is insane. Like when you look at that photo of Mother's Day or whatever, you're like, this is something is going on with this photo. Because it was
It's right, and that photo was a disaster in the sense that it just lit a firestorm that could not be put out. Like once that photo was out, there was no ending to this other than coming clean with what was going on.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. So
because
they
they were trying to cover up something. It's something we didn't need to know to begin with, but you could tell that they were covering something up, and they didn't have to do that. They just decided to do that, and I was like, well, what's up with that then? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
It's
well, and I just it's the interesting thing is there's a lot of interesting things to this, but being a royal watcher, I'll just say that right now Camilla and William are the senior most royal members that are keeping this family together right now. Charles and Kate have cancer, very serious cancer, and Harry's an outcast, and that's it. The Queen's gone. I mean, it's the family is seeing I think a stress they haven't seen in generations right now. So,
well, I'm sure they'll figure it out on the taxpayers' money.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They'll
We'll have to get somebody British on the cross and streams to talk about it.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. We're done. Look at us. Yay.
Apologies, guys, for my internet issues.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
We filled in, and we were professionals. This is a professional live show. We just filled it in. You came back, continued. It was great.
I appreciate it.
Reviews are in, and everyone's applauding how you handled it. Zach, where can we see you? Where are you hanging out these days?
I literally don't do anything. I'm working way too much. But if you do want to hear something that I've been working on a little bit, I'm part of this thing with the Jack Billings guys, that a haunted apartment complex. We just wrapped on The Funeral. I play a character called Adam Lynch, the butt stabber. I am a ghost. I just want to stab some butts. My voice is not this voice. For some reason, I'm channeling Mark Hamill's Skeletor. So it is a shrieking voice, but it's worth it. So check out Haunted Apartment Complex or anything that Jack Billings presents. Especially,
where does one find that, Zach?
It's only in podcast form. So you find a podcast catcher, maybe an iTunes, maybe a Spotify, maybe one of those weird ones that you sign up for that you're like, I didn't know this was even a thing, but now I have it. Anywhere. Jack Billings presents Haunted Apartment Complex. It is too fun. It's too funny for me to not have written it. So it's very, very good.
Amazing.
Awesome.
And Ron, where do your travels take you?
Jeff, I am a traveling maniac right now. I just got back from Atlanta, and I was in Denver this past week. On Monday, I head back to Los Angeles. So that's where I'm going to be. Delta Airlines flight to LAX, and I'll see what I can review coming back.
Amazing. And as always, you can catch me on Classic Conversations. I have a fun episode this week. I talked to Mark Myers. He's a writer, author. And he's a historian, music historian. We dive into some TV theme songs like Bewitched,
always good topic.
Gilligan's Island, and Mary Tyler Moore and stuff. So some real classic ones, befitting. So check that out.
So that's why we're not doing the theme song this week, because with what you've learned, you're crafting a new theme song.
I wish that were true. I wish, but. All right, you guys. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We appreciate you. Bye.